last 20 quarterbacks to win a Super Bowl. Okay?
Yeah.
Pat Mahomes a million
Tom
times.
Brady, Pat Mahomes got like 15 of them.
Tom Brady, Pat Mahomes,
Hurts,
Ben Roethlisberger,
Matt Stafford,
Aaron Rodgers,
Sam Darnold, Jalen Hurts, Mahomes, Stafford, Brady, Mahomes, Brady, Nick Foles, Brady, Peyton, Brady, Russell Wilson,
Brady,
Joe Flacco, Eli Manning, Aaron Rodgers, Drew Brees, Ben Roethlisberger, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning,
Brady.
There you go.
Yeah.
A lot of elite quarterbacks on the list.
When did we get to quarterbacks? We was arguing receiver and lineman. I don't know where the quarterback talk came from.
And if you ask me overall, what's more important, to have a better offensive line or better wide receiving core, I would agree with you, the offensive line. But I think there are specific instances, one for one, if you, as important as the offensive line is and as bad as the Bengals O-line has been, this year it was much better. As I said, the second half of the year, the best offensive line he's had. But I would take Jamar Chase over Penny Sewell.
It turned out to be not a bad decision. Because, they literally went to the Super Bowl. So I'm not saying it's the wrong decision.
Yeah. I got a question for you. I never really thought of it in this light. Is it better from just the offensive line, if you have like a guy like Trent Williams, who is as good as it gets on one side,
I know where Mike going,
and then an absolute dud on the other, or kind of five guys who are all solid?
I'd rather have five.
Hey, can I ask it this way? Because we talking about quarterbacks, wide receivers, offensive line.
Heck out of your
so we would all agree, like, no matter what position group, if you up there in the top 15, you got a better chance.
Of course.
So what would you have? Which group would you rather have? A top 5, a top 10, or a top 15 position group in? If you can only build it out that way.
What do you mean, quarterback?
So say like you run the Bengals, like you got a top. Would you rather have a top 15 quarterback room, then you got a top 5 wide receiver room, and a top 10 offensive line? How would you want to rank that out?
Quarterback.
So you want a top 5 quarterback?
I would want top 5 quarterback, top 10 wide receiver, top 15 offensive line. That'd be me. Because I don't need. We just said it. You'd rather think about this. You said you'd rather have 5 solid offensive linemen than a couple of stars and a couple of duds, right? Mm-hmm. How about at wide receiver?
Would I rather have a couple?
I'd rather have a couple of studs and a couple of duds than just.
I think I'd rather have a top. I'd rather have a top 5 offensive line, a top 10 wide receiver group, and a top 15 quarterback.
That's crazy. That is bad.
Because I feel like if I got a top 15 quarterback and I got a top 5 offensive line and I got a top 10 wide receiver
Sam Darnold rank in quarterbacks
last
today?
2 years, he's top 10 unquestioned.
So, okay, well, then I'm going top 10 quarterback, top 5 line, top 15
wide receiver group.
You'd rather have a top 5 offensive line and the 8th best quarterback than the 8th best offensive line and the 2nd best quarterback?
I just watched the team win the Super Bowl.
That's one time.
It just happened the year before that.
Well, I would have. Got him twice. Tyvis, did you listen to the list of quarterbacks?
I think you guys are too prisoner of the moment.
You'd be a total prisoner of the moment.
No, I'm not.
Yes.
I think that, you know what? Time will tell.
Yeah.
Time will tell because all y'all top 5 quarterbacks either didn't make the playoffs or
it's
later
1 year.
done.
It's 1 year.
Pat
Mahomes
looked terrible last year.
It was 1 year though, Tyvis.
He didn't make it this year. It's 2 years. What do you want me to say?
He was horrible in the Super Bowl.
He didn't make the playoffs this year. He looked horrible last year.
He didn't look horrible last year.
At the Super Bowl?
They still went to the Super Bowl.
But they lost. And he looked terrible.
In the Super Bowl,
they lost to a team with a good run game.
Oh my God! I can't believe how prisoner of the moment you are.
I just think that the narrative at the top 5 quarterback thing is not what you think.
What's the narrative?
That you got to have a top 5 quarterback.
I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying I'd
So
rather.
why is it bad that I want a top 10
Who been the top 5 quarterbacks over the last 3 or 4 years? How many Super Bowls they have?
Wait a minute. Why are you so upset that I said a top 10 when you just said Sam Darnold was a top 10 quarterback?
Because
you need to be mad at him. He the one said 15. I said
crazy.
Top 10.
That's crazy.
What's wrong with a top 15 quarterback?
Like I said something that's just so crazy.
You're trying to argue that having a better offensive line is more important than having a better quarterback.
Man, you saying it's crazy like you can't win with a top 15 quarterback.
That's wrong.
I just watched Bo Nix about to go to the championship. If he was healthy, they probably would have won that game.
First of all, he didn't.
Yeah, because he was hurt.
Is Bo Nix a top 15 quarterback?
Probably.
I don't know that he's a top 10 quarterback.
No,
That's the top 15.
The AFC had a down year this year. It was weird circumstances what happened in the AFC. Patrick Mahomes has been to the playoffs every year but one. Lamar Jackson every year but one. Josh Allen every year.
So is it about getting to the playoffs or winning Super Bowls? Because it's Pat Mahomes and then everybody else that we've been talking about the last 3 or 4 years as the top 5 quarterback ain't did a damn thing. They ain't won no Super Bowls. Half of them barely even been there.
Patrick, you can't get there when only one guy in the AFC can get there, Earl.
Hey, listen, everybody.
What are you talking about?
Because everybody,
four guys in the same.
Everybody keep making it seem like that, like Lamar Jackson, like Josh Allen, that the Joe Burrow. Can't nobody catch no smoke. If you that damn good, then you can beat the Chiefs. You act like Pat Mahomes is out there playing by himself. Even on his down years, the defense carried him some of those years.
I hear you, but ultimately only one guy from the AFC can get to the Super Bowl.
So Josh Allen couldn't beat Kansas City's defense when Pat Mahomes was having arguably the worst year of his career.
Did they even play Kansas
I'm just giving an example. Like, no matter who it is. Like,
I'm mad off the fact that you mad that I said a top 10 quarterback can't win it.
I didn't say that. I said I'd rather have it. To me, it's crazy that you'd rather, because I think the difference between the number 3 offensive line and the number 8 offensive line is much less of a difference than the difference between the number 3 quarterback and the number 8 quarterback.
This is my issue. There is a living example of what you're talking about. You said you rather have a top 5 quarterback, top 10 receiver, and top 15 offensive line. That is almost to a little, obviously not as perfect, but almost to what Cincinnati is. They've been to one Super Bowl and lost.
The Bengals
have
not had a top 15 offensive line.
No, I said that's the only thing that's an outlier.
But that's a big dip. That's a big difference.
33% of the equation. And
if the Bengals,
y'all is insane.
Hey, let me ask you this. Let me ask you this, Tyvis. If the Bengals had a top 15 offensive line, would they have won that Super Bowl? You're damn right they would have.
Yeah, because Joe Burrow needed literally
he needed
0.25 seconds left.
And they win the Super Bowl.
Jamar Chase had Jalen Ramsey
wide open
like a drum.
He was done.
But
they would have won that Super Bowl because they had a bad. I'm not saying you can win with a bad offensive line.
But you just told me that they fixed the offensive line.
Last year, at the second half of the year, it really came around.
So why is they still not making the playoffs?
Because Joe Burrow was hurt half the year.
See, this is ridiculous. Okay, Joe Burrow had a historic year where he won the Triple Crown and Jamar Chase won the Triple Crown, and they still didn't make the postseason.
I hear you.
My goodness,
but that wasn't because of the offensive line. It's because the defense was terrible.
Boy, man, we just going to disagree on this.
You're going to disagree that they didn't make the playoffs?
No, I'm not even going to go into it. I'm ready for whatever. What's the next topic? I'm done with this. Next topic.
In 2024.
You guys are being prisoner of the moment.
No, you being prisoner. Because for me to say I take a top 10 quarterback, like to me.
Earl said top 15.
I am not. My name is Tyvis. I'm not Earl. You mad at me because I said I take a top 10
Sam Darnold won a Super Bowl.
Quarterback.
It's still.
The last 2 years, the top 10 quarterback has won the Super Bowl.
I hear you, yes. Where were the Seahawks ranked in terms of offensive line?
I don't know. You got to ask McNuggets.
They're probably top 10. I don't know. Maybe they were top 5.
Ask McNuggets.
You don't even know. You're arguing the offensive line. You don't even know.
I'm probably top 15.
Okay, that's all I'm saying. You don't have to have a great offensive line. You just have to have a good offensive line.
Sure.
So wouldn't you rather have a great quarterback and a good offensive line than a good quarterback and a great offensive line?
No, because I like to take the pressure sometimes off.
If the ultimate goal is winning the Super Bowl, and this man just said when it comes down to winning the Super Bowl, he believed that's when all offensive line play differentiates. So that's what you said, right?
Pretty much.
So, why not try to have the best offensive line that you got? Because even a top 10 quarterback can have an off game, right? So you could turn around and hand it to your running back. So all I'm saying is, to me, in my opinion, the better trench play that you have,
the more. The most important thing in football.
No, like Andrew Berry just said it. Your head coach and your quarterback are the 2 most important positions in football.
I don't trust Andrew Berry. He don't know what the hell he's talking about. You just said that it's the third most. You said wide receiver.
I did not say it was the third. You're not gonna put words in my mouth. I rank how I was stacking. I never said it was not that.
Why can't a top 10 quarterback not get it done for you?
I didn't say that.
That's basically what you implying.
No, that's not what he said.
If I'm putting words in Earl's mouth, then you're putting words in my mouth.
So what is your issue with what I said?
I'm saying that ultimately, ultimately, I can win. There's a path to win with the 8th best quarterback and the 2nd best offensive line. I agree. I don't think you're crazy for that.
Well, thank you. That's all I needed to hear. We just spent 15
I would rather have the
this.
2nd best quarterback and the 8th best offensive line. That's all I'm saying.
This is funny.
And I think most people would.
So PFF had their final 2025 offensive line rankings posted after the regular. Does not take the posting into consideration. This was posted on January 7th. Best offensive lines in football. I'll give you the top 5, then I'll tell you where Seattle ranked. Denver was 1. The Colts were 2.
Didn't make the playoffs.
Bears were 3. Rams were 4. San Francisco was 5. Guess where Seattle ranked?
15.
9th.
15th. On the dot.
I'm right. I've been vindicated.
You want to hear the rankings real quick, just for?
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I've been vindicated.
So that was the top 5. Buffalo was 6. Philly 7. Pittsburgh 8. The Giants 9. KC was 10. New England 11. Detroit 12. Washington 13. Atlanta 14. Seattle 15. Baltimore 16, and then I'll fast forward to the bottom here.
So all this talk about, well, they won because they have the better offensive line. Well, for the regular season, the Patriots had the better offensive line.
You watched the Super Bowl. Who had
Browns
the
ranked,
I
the
didn't.
Browns
I was
ranked
sick that day.
31st.
Remember, I couldn't watch the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I forgot.
But yes, in that game,
you know what happened.
In that game, yes, the Patriots' offensive line was a disaster.
Yeah, don't do that.
Here's where we're in agreement. If your offensive line is a disaster,
You're not going to
You ain't got a chance. There we go.
I agree.
There
with
we
that.
go.
Now, I could say if your quarterback's a disaster, you're also not going to win.
That's true.
Browns right here?
31st, just above the Raiders.
Nice. 31st. How bad is the Raiders' offensive line?
They
My
definitely
God.
taking the tackle at 6.
31st. Where was the Bengals?
The Bengals were
25th?
28th.
Oh, that's bad too. But I'm telling you, the second half of the year was better.
The little write-up.
Oh, my God. Tyvis spitting water.
Hold on. Steve, take the wide shot.
Tyvis just spit out water. Flag on the play. Why are you spitting out water? Because I said their offensive line was better in the second half?
Took it all back. Where did they rank? I didn't even hear the ranking.
He go, but I'm telling you, they was better. That was
Let me tell you
better.
something. They had 2 rookies on their offensive line. They got better as the season goes along. Where are all these flags coming from, Mike?
Yo.
D. Bush did this stuff.
Oh,
man.
what?
Hey, you got the bling. The whistle got bling to it. Yo.
He said.
What? G. Bush is the weirdest dude of all time.
Oh,
A bedazzled.
I am sorry, boy.
Yo, that's funny how that whole conversation just came full circle.
I couldn't.
I think we agree, man. Everybody we just need something like even Q.
The problem right now is the Browns don't have a top 15 quarterback, a top 15 wide receiving core, or a top 15 offensive line. Yeah. So they don't have any of them.
I think
They're
bottom 5 in all 3.
They're bottom 5 in all 3.
very
That's the
depressing.
sad part.
Could you win a Super Bowl with a bottom 5 offensive line?
And the top 5 defense.
Top 5 defense, but bottom 5 in every category on offense
Absolutely
except for running
not.
back.
It's
man.
really
All right.
sad.
All right, what's
That was
next?
fun. That was fun. We're going to talk a little Guardians for a sec, guys.